house. When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to the Around the House Pro Insider Special. This is where we talk everything with the pros every other week here. I'm Eric G. Thanks for joining us today. Happy December 1st and 2nd. Now, this is that time of year that I think is a really special one as a business owner, manager, just someone out there that is looking forward into 2022 in the residential design and construction industry. This is where I like to spend my time this month and get things set up and dialed in for 2022. All that foundational stuff that you can do, hopefully things quiet down a little bit so you can really focus on managing your own business. Maybe it's just you. Maybe you're by yourself. Maybe you're a salesperson working for a larger company. It doesn't matter. This is about you setting things up for next year. Now, there's going to be some challenges coming into 2022 that we're all obvious, that we all know that we're going to be dealing with. And we're going to address a little bit of that today, but that's not what this is about. There's some facets that I think you should pay attention to out there. There are going to be some big challenges. For instance, if you are a manager, owner, or you have anybody that works below you that you manage. So not that they're below you, but in the ladder of management in your company, if you are in charge of people, I want you to pay attention to this. One of your largest challenges into 2022 and throughout 2022 is going to be keeping good people. Because what's going to happen, as we've seen this year, and it's going to continue into next year, great people are going to be kind of hard to hold on to. And one of the saddest things that I see out there, the saddest things, is when that key person in your organization comes up and goes, hey, I don't know how to say this. Here's my 2 weeks notice. And you as a manager go, what? I didn't see this coming. And about 3/4 of the time when you didn't see it coming, those warning signs were there, but you literally didn't see it coming. So these are things that I would say for you as a manager, I would be focusing on in 2022. Maybe a little bit of one-on-one time with each employee to make them feel valued. Make sure that they're getting compensated correctly compared to the rest of the industry. It's a little late for dealing with benefits, but there's abilities for you to keep people, even if your company doesn't have the best benefit package, where they go, the benefits are killer, but I lose these freedoms or I lose this ability. So be flexible and see what you can do to keep your eye on the temperature of the people you're managing. Those people are going to be much more expensive to have to retrain and put somebody in that position than it is to give them a little bit more to make sure they stick around. And so that's going to be one of the big key takeaways to plan for in 2022. How are you going to keep those key people on your team? And quite frankly, is there a key person on your team right now that's making it difficult for everybody that you should be out there getting rid of and replacing with somebody else's key team member? Because you think about it right now, we are losing more people in our industry than we're gaining. They're retiring. They're like, hey, I'm out. Problem is we still are not putting enough people to fill those positions in. And so it's creating that vacuum, which means things get more expensive. It costs more to hire new people. And it's just something you got to be careful with. I don't want to see you get stuck in that trap where all of a sudden all your good people have gone to the people down the street and you're stuck holding the bag with fresh people and your sales go away. It can be the end of a company if you don't plan this out correctly. So keep those key people on your team. And quite frankly, if you can keep all the good ones and get rid of the bad ones, you're doing better than most. So that's one of them right there. Now, two, coming into this next year, I want you to spend some time because a lot of people have been busy, super busy out there. You know what happens? They forget about marketing because, as we know in this industry, busy doesn't go on forever. There's always that ebb and flow. It's like, oh, it's crazy. And then all of a sudden the phone stops ringing and you go, oh, This quiet makes me nervous. Uh-oh. We're eating up the pipeline, and now we don't have enough business coming in the door to keep things going. So even if you can't take on the new business right now, branding is key. You want those people out there. If you have somebody that's a client of yours that retires, that's a return client, depending on whatever they're doing, you want to make sure that you're bringing in new business 24/7. I would much rather see you, if you're a builder, remodeler, framer, tile setter, schedule yourself out months and have it ready to go versus waiting week to week and trying to figure out what you're going to fill your schedule in with. So having a waiting list is not bad, but that also will give you the freedom if you have the ability to hire somebody else. If you've got work stacked out for months ahead of time, now you can start to look at it and go, oh, this makes sense. I can actually bring another person on, and you can fill that with bandwidth. Now, one lesson that I've learned in this industry is bigger is not always better. When I had my largest design company, I made personally less money than when it was a small company. So bigger is not always better. So as you go, you need to really pay attention to the scale of what things start to cost you. Because sometimes you get into that weird funk where as you get bigger, you have to bring in more people, but you have not replaced the labor and effort that it takes for that new business. And so sometimes you get yourself caught in a little tiny bit of a hole where you expanded 20%, but to replace that for that business, you have to put in 30% more of it. And you just get stuck where you're actually making less money than if you would have kept it back. So do your math, find out where those holes are in your business. Make sure that you're not so big that you're making everybody mad because you've lost that communication with your customer. They're not dealing with the same people. You've gotten to be too much of a machine. That personalized service for 2022 is still going to be a big deal. And I don't care who you are, how big you are, people still want to deal with people. And that relationship is always going to be outdoing technology. And technology is going to be key for anybody else's business. I tell you what, I am seeing more suppliers out there right now implementing new online ordering systems where they can just jump on an order. And I talked about this for years in my speeches to builders, remodelers, lumberyard owners, and lumberyard salespeople, that having that clean system to make it easy to do business with you should be another key takeaway for 2022. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about today that's going to take a little time here, bear with me on this, is I want you to start taking a look at where is your company bleeding money? Everything right now is more expensive. And it doesn't matter if it's the electric bill for keeping the lights on or the gas bill for keeping the furnace going, to what fuel you're putting in your trucks, to the oil changes, to the parts to repair that rig, power tools. It's all getting more expensive. Heck, you take your team out to lunch. It's way more expensive than it was a year ago. Are you accounting for that in your new business? So many people have their charge rates of whatever they charge, and they're just out doing their thing, but they don't realize that they're that kind of rabbit in the boiling pot of water. They don't realize that it's getting hot. That's actually a frog, but you know what I'm saying. This isn't Looney Tunes, but that is happening, and you're bleeding more money. So you should be checking those numbers month to month right now and squaring those things up. How's my fuel cost compared to what my labor costs are? You might have to make some serious adjustments out there, and that's not a bad thing. And sometimes if you're too busy and you've got, let's say you're a heating and cooling company or an electrician, and you've got whatever you've got going on, sometimes raising those rates slightly will balance that out. And something, you're going to put a little more money in your pocket because everybody knows it's going up, and that's going to cover the next set of increases that happen, because I don't see fuel prices going down here in the next 6 months at all. We'll see what happens. I think it's only up from here. So expect in 2022 that happening. Now, in the lumber, building materials, kitchen and bath, in our complete industry, this next January, February, and even March tend to where we see the biggest and most largest price increases out there. So those price increases will come from appliance companies. They'll come from paint companies. Whatever you're doing out there where you're buying materials, lumber's a commodity, so that's a little bit different of a product. But anything outside of that, because it's always designed around the, Design and Construction Week in Orlando, which I'll be there speaking. Make sure you head over to the Home Technology Zone stage because I'll be teaching some classes over there. But here's what's going to go on. You see the new catalogs and the new prices come out usually in that January, February when the show is and into March. So that's when prices adjust. You need to make sure that you're adjusting your prices with that. So stay on top of those vendors, those key pieces. If you're a drywall company, I hope you're watching the price of drywall, mud, tape, metal, all that stuff. Make sure you're on top of all this stuff. In flooring, it's a different story because it's time and time again. But I tell you what, I just ordered the same flooring that I ordered a year ago. And I tell you what, it was 20-something% higher than it was a year ago for the same exact color because I was adding on to an area of my house. So just keep in mind that those prices from the time that you probably are quoting a job to the time that you're actually ordering the materials, you could still be losing 10, 15, 20%. So I want you to make sure and spend a little time on getting that dialed in. Watch those numbers. Those numbers are what's going to keep your business profitable or vice versa, losing your ass, and nobody wants to do that. So this is a great time. Think of those systems. What can you do better for 2022? And I don't care how great a business you're running. There's all those things going. I've got my things I'm working on too, so none of us are exempt from this. I've got some big things that we're doing differently for 2022, and we're going to be doing some streamlining and making things a little bit easier on my end because, sometimes you look at it and go, wow, why are we doing it this way? That's what I'm doing, and I'm going to make some changes with that on my end because I need to make my business platform a little bit smoother in how things operate. So I'm doing less firefighting and actually running my business. And that's the other thing. When you're a business owner out there, and this is the last little note for all of you out there as business owners, make sure you're not in your business. Make sure you're managing and running your business. Because sometimes if you're the one out there in the weeds, out doing your thing, and you are way too personally involved in every little detail, you are not up there as the captain of the ship, steering the ship. And now that ship is steering you. So make sure that you are actually each day building, managing, steering that business into where it needs to be. And I don't care if you're like, I'm fourth generation, third generation, and this is just what we do, and it's on autopilot. Autopilot is how businesses crash into walls, and I have seen that happen dozens and dozens of times when a perfectly run business got ignored and the business ownership ended up getting too far in the weeds in too much micromanaging, and they didn't pay attention to where it was going, and they ran it right into a wall. So spend some time on that, guys. Spend some time to make sure that you're going the right direction and that you've got all your details dialed in on your business. Make sure that your profits and losses are in line with where they need to go. And right now, I'd still be putting some money away. I think that having some reserves in your business is a smart call. And having that bank account built up a little bit is not a bad thing right now because that way you can have that set aside. I wouldn't go out and be buying the new boat and the big truck right now. I think things in the next 3 or 4 years will end up getting cheaper, but we're going to have to see what happens. So put that money away. Make sure you got a great little nest egg for your business. Make sure, too, guys, one other little detail, and I'm going to pop in there, and I know I said I was about done, but make sure that you've got the proper insurance for your company. I can't tell you recently how many fires I've seen of businesses or thefts or things like, yeah, we weren't insured, so we lost everything. Just a little bit of insurance goes a long ways. And it's so dirt cheap. Just spend the money. Make sure that your tools are covered. Make sure your business is covered. And make sure that if, that you're covered. So many times, I bought business insurance, but then they get a loss. Like, I didn't realize that our tools were covered. We didn't have a tool writer. Or, I didn't realize that we had this. We didn't have that. So just get that dialed in, guys. Work on those projects. work on those projects that make life better and easier for 2022. All right, everybody, have a happy holidays. I will see you in a couple weeks here on the Around the House Pro Insider. And make sure that you're heading down to Design and Construction Week in Orlando, Florida here in February for the IBS and the NKBA KBiz show, because that's going to be a good one. And I'm going to be up on stage for 3 solid days, including a little secret here. We're going to be taping a couple shows of Around the House over there as well, so you can be a part of that. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the day. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, all of that stuff. And if I forgot you, I didn't mean to. Thanks again for listening to Around the House.
Somewhere unseen and undiscovered, anywhere beyond the mean. Life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're all over the radio.